Hello YouTube, this is a video to show you something which I call rust lines. It's not a technique as such for weathering, it's more like a simple idea. It's something to perhaps get you started with weathering. The rust lines you can see here are made with a combination of two things. One, the Vallejo pigment binder, and two, an assortment of weathering pigments. I chose Vallejo as I mentioned earlier. I use a mixing tray for keeping small amounts of the pigment colors I intend to use. That way I can quickly mix them, and of course you shouldn't do that directly in the different bottles. Also, the pigments can be left out for long periods of time without losing their use. And you do not have to mix the pigments directly on the model if you do not want to. For the rust lines, I use small detail brushes, one which is a 2.0 and another which is a 3.0. So first I apply the pigment binder in small dabs. Don't worry about putting too much on because it's see-through. If you want a thicker coat of pigment binder so it can absorb more pigments, you should tap the brush on the surface. If you want to remove some of it, or if you from the start want a thin layer of pigment binder to absorb less pigment, you should wipe the brush across the surface. Second, I pick up smaller amounts of pigment in one color after another, and then I slowly dab that on. See, now I picked up another color than the first one, and I started dabbing the second color in the same spots roughly as the first color in order to mix them. This is important because you don't want rust coloration or other kinds of decoloration which are only one color. It doesn't look realistic. Real rust and real discolorations are different hues of the same color, for instance. As you may notice, in places where the pigment binder is more voluminous, has larger spots, then the pigments themselves tend to liquefy further, as in areas where there is less pigment binder, the pigment tends to remain more solid and have a physical shape. You can use this knowledge to do both flat discoloration, or you can use less pigment binder, perhaps remove some by using a cloth, and then afterwards putting on the pigments in a way that resembles also physical rust, physical dirt, whatever, being stuck outside or on top of the original paint. If you feel like you've put on too much weathering pigment, the good thing about water-based products such as the Vallejo weathering pigments is that you can just rinse your brush and in water, wiping the brush afterwards, so you don't put too much water back onto the pigments on the model. Well, you can use the brush laden with only water to remove parts where you've already put pigments. And that makes it easy to control how you want the final appearance to be. Also, if you use very little water, you can use this to manipulate the pigment in a similar fashion as if you had put a lot of pigment, more pigment binder on. Is you can use the water to partly to liquefy the pigments and make some of them turn into what resembles sort of regular paint. So using very little water can be used to achieve the effect of rust which has run in the rain, or to sort of mix things a little bit better together.